Welcome back to the Aesthetic Edit podcast. My name is Mary.
I'm Savannah.
You guys were so excited. Today, we're talking about money, honey.
Woo! All things money, finances, everything.
We're kind of into it because at the end of the day, as a business owner, you can't make any decisions unless you know what's going on with your money, right?
What guides us? Money when it comes to the end of the day with business.
Okay, but you've been inspiring me lately with your personal finance journey.
Thank you.
I'm like reliving through you, through
so
this sweet angel, Dave Ramsey,
whoever
that is.
Love him.
Oh my gosh. Can you tell us what you're doing with this man?
Yes. So I read The Total Money Makeover. Thank you, Christian, for showing me the book.
Shout out.
And it's just a great way to kind of get control of your finances. After graduating college a few years ago, I got to the point where I was like, I'm making money and I get paid. And where the heck is all my money going? It's been a week since my paycheck came in and I don't know where anything is.
TikTok shop.
Not TikTok shop. I hate TikTok shop. Hot take. Actually, not a hot take. I feel like everybody feels that way. But I was just really struggling. I didn't know what was going on. And student loan payments were starting back up again. And so that added like a level of stress to it. And I just did not know what I was going to be doing. And Christian, my sweet, sweet, sweet fiance, he is really big into money as well. Finances, everything. He's in private equity. And he had introduced Total Money Makeover and Dave Ramsey to me. He used to listen to his podcast. He read the book. And at first I was really hesitant because I was like, I know what I'm doing with my money. But that's just also my personality. Then I heard him out and read the book. And now I use little envelopes for every single category for my spends when it comes to my money.
I know. We went to the nail salon and I gave you paid
cash.
In all tens.
We went to dinner.
I was impressed.
I gave you the cash.
I know.
Like, everything's through cash. So basically what you do is you basically... After you get a paycheck, you go to the bank, you get all of your money withdrawn that you need for that month after budgeting it all out. And you know exactly where your money's going. You can help by using like the app Every Dollar. So basically the whole thought process is every dollar has a place. So when every dollar has a place, you're saving more because you know exactly where it's going and you're not overspending. And I was realizing I was overspending a lot socially. So like I was going out to dinners that I just not that I shouldn't be going out to dinners, but I just shouldn't be spending as much as I was. And so doing this has made me feel I've never been so secure in where I'm at financially and paying things off. And it's been so great.
Okay. I'm a high D on the disc.
I love it.
I'm a big bullet point person.
Love it.
What's the number one takeaway from that book?
Use cash.
Really?
If you use a card, like unless you're traveling, the only thing is that when you're traveling, a lot of people feel like security wise because you can get robbed. So then all of your cash is gone. But when you're here and you're at home, use cash because it's a lot harder.
While you're learning your budget. Yes. Essentially. Okay.
One, it's harder for you to pass over the cash because it's hard cash. Two, you know exactly how much is supposed to be spent in that category. So like I am like making sure aesthetically, I am budgeting for my cosmetic work. So like I have money going aside for like my nails when I'm getting it done, my hair when I get that done. If I need to get a Botox retreatment, like I have a certain amount of money I put aside for my paycheck. Each time I get a paycheck. And
I love this.
Every time I'm like due for getting my nails done or getting my hair done again, I just pull from that envelope. I see how much I have left and I'm not overspending. I'm just using exactly what I need once I budget in that way.
So this is so interesting because this is like version 1. This is like level 1 personal finances.
Love it.
And then when you start a business, it's like that, but on steroids.
On total steroids.
Because you need to have a sense of understanding around the numbers.
Yes.
Even if you're not a math girly, you can have support. There's whole companies now that do this for a living.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But there also is just a whole other side to money that's around mindset, scarcity versus abundance. And we're really excited today because we have a guest that is going to address so many things around business, money, even touching on our economy today, what to expect in 2024, with it being another election year. Yeah. Shall we say it? ... And someone who's just seen such wild, crazy success. And we are inspired by her and her company all day, every day. They also consult us on how to achieve the goals that we want to achieve because we're very ambitious girlies over here.
Very. To learn more about the Aesthetic Edit podcast, follow us on social media at the Aesthetic Edit podcast. We can be found on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
We'd love to hear from you if you have show ideas or guest recommendations for our future podcast episodes. We're so excited to have one of our favorite people in our studio today. We'd love to introduce Jessica Nunn, the founder of Maven Financial Partners. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you guys for having me.
We're so excited to have you.
Thank you.
You and your company has literally changed the trajectory of our growth, and we look up to you and your business in so many ways. And we're just so inspired by everything that you do. So we have a lot to talk about today.
Thank you. Yes, I know. I'm excited to get into it, especially after hearing about this cash in the envelopes.
Yes.
So I don't know how I feel about it. That's okay. We don't have to get into it.
I love it. Ask me questions. I might not know all the answers, but.
Well, what I'm thinking is that really this is what we do for businesses. If you think about it, right? Because we have a very clear budget, you guys know, for all of our clients. And so it's almost like they have an envelope. So we have a marketing envelope. We have a payroll envelope. We have an envelope for rent. Like we know exactly how much those costs should be.
Yes.
And if we always say, if you run out of money before you run out of month, right, then you have a problem.
Yes.
And we have to talk about it and figure out what we need to do about it. So it's so interesting listening to the envelope story and thinking about how we have a spreadsheet for that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so true. Jessica, how did you get into founding your own company? Can you just start us from the very beginning?
Yeah. So I think we've talked about it before. I've never been the person who it was always my dream to start a company. That is not true with me.
Really?
It has never been my dream. No.
I'm so surprised.
Nope.
Okay.
Have you always been a math girly though?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
But, honestly, the math that we do, we use Excel. It's not hard. I think for us, it's about communication, right? So my journey started, I am a CPA. You guys know, I tell people I'm a recovering CPA. So I did the tax work for a long time, as fun as exciting as that sounds, right? Riveting. The most fun that I had doing the tax work was really talking to the clients and talking to the business owners. Because, it's scary for a lot of people, right? How much do I owe? Why do I owe that? I just don't think I made that much money. Are you serious right now? So we had to have those conversations all the time. And I always had a passion around how can I get them to understand? How can I get them to see? How can I get them to not be scared? You said that this book that you read has changed your life, made you feel a lot better about your financial security, right? And in reality, you've changed some things, but it's the feeling, the confidence that you have now that's going to allow you to make these decisions.
Yes.
So how can we inspire our clients, even at the time, right? I'm just, 25-year-old doing a tax return. How do I inspire clients to get a better understanding of what's happening in their business? So graduated from the tax prep world and started working at a consulting firm where we still did a lot of CPA work, a lot of investments. So we helped folks with their investments. We helped people personally with their budgeting. But my favorite part was understanding the business and having these relationships with these clients, understanding their business a little bit better and just giving them the confidence to make better decisions.
Okay.
So, fast forward 2018, I started a business with a partner who is an excellent business guy. He really knows how to run the business. And that was kind of my way of saying, okay, it is not my dream to start a business, but I do like taking care of clients.
Yeah.
He can come on board and help me run this business. So we worked together very well for a few years and then realized that we didn't have the same vision. So, he really wanted to grow the business quickly and he really wanted to, in the end, work in a way that was a little bit different, take care of clients in a different way. They have a different advisory service than we do now. So a couple years later, we decided to spin off and we rebranded under Maven Financial. So it turns out this girl who didn't even want to start a business now started too, right? I'm like, are you kidding me? I have to name this thing again.
Oh my gosh.
I have to start, a whole new set of financials. Luckily, we had clients, we had employees. So it wasn't totally starting from scratch. But it's like, starting a lot of the things all over again.
Yeah.
So that was 2021. And, we're just very clear and very intentional with what we do and how we do it. And we're having the best time now doing that.
Oh, I love that.
Absolutely.
Do you mind if we take it back a little bit? I loved hearing your entire story. And I know you mentioned your CPA. Can you educate the audience a little bit? What is that? I know you said that you were doing a lot of tax work. What does it look like to actually get that certification, just so everybody can kind of hear what that's like?
And we get this a lot too, because we're not, I happen to be a CPA, but it's not what I do now. Yeah. Hence the recovery, right? So I'm in recovery. I'm a sober CPA. We're not doing that anymore. But what that typically is it's someone who is certified to sign a tax return or certified to
to handle an audit. So, they're auditing financials of big companies. They're preparing tax returns for all kinds of companies. And with that, they're oftentimes providing advice. So people call us a lot, and they call me because they'll say, I need a new CPA. And I'll say, okay, tell me why you think you need a new CPA. And they'll say, well, my person, like, they're great at doing the taxes and they're great at doing the bookkeeping. But what I'm looking for is more of like a strategic partner, someone who can help us like plan into the future and help us, make some decisions around who we should hire, when we should hire someone. And I'll tell them, it sounds like your CPA is actually great. And they're doing exactly what they've been trained to do and what you're hiring them to do. Have you thought about maybe hiring a CFO? So the difference is the CPA and the bookkeeper, folks in the accounting world, are looking at your business with what already happened, right? They're recording the transactions. They're preparing the tax return. They're saying, okay, this is what happened last month.
Right.
This is what happened last year, right? What we do is we take that information. So it's very valuable. We need to know what you did last month and last year. Here's how you're performing, here's your profitability. But for us, like, that already happened, so it's gone, right? So what we say is, now that we have that information, what do we do going forward? What are we going to do tomorrow? What are we going to do next month? What are we going to do next year? So it really helps us think through things in the future. Okay. So a CFO is more forward thinking. CPA accounting is more what already happened. Now, having said that, I don't want, you guys to get hate mail from CPAs. There are a lot of CPAs who do help with strategy and who are happy to get on the phone with their clients and talk to them about the future of their business and what they want to improve. But that is all we do. So when clients call us, we're never in the middle of preparing tax returns for a tax deadline. We're never in the middle of performing an audit. All we do is help folks with their strategy going forward.
And plan for the future. And I just had like such a light bulb moment. And this is why you work so well with business owners and entrepreneurs, because we live 3 to 5 years ahead of time all day, every day. We think ahead. And that's why CPAs, like you said, you're recovering. That has to be hard. You're dealing with a business owner who is such like a visionary, momentum building type of personality. And now you want us to look backwards at all the mistakes we made. That's rough.
It is rough. To be clear, we're going to make you do that too. Right?
Yes.
So we're going to take you through some of those hard times because we need to understand how it's been going. But you're right. Like, people are like, can I tell you that 3 months ago, your cost of goods were 35%? And you're like, okay, that's good. But like, how do I get it to where I want it to be? Now what?
Well, whenever you were earlier on, before you started Maven, you were in that CPA role. Were there any situations that happened that made you start to think, maybe I want more out of my career? Were there any moments that just kind of got your wheels spinning a little bit and just thinking ahead?
Well, like I said, it was not ever really my dream to start the business, but I did know that I enjoyed talking with people and that I enjoyed helping people. And, I tell people a lot that, like, in my mind, whether this is true or not, I was born to tell people what to do. Right. Growing up, I had siblings. I've been telling people what to do my whole life. Right. So it felt very natural to me when I have these clients that say, like, what should I do about this? Oh, let me tell you what I think you should do. Right. I mean, I'm trying to learn now. Sometimes people just want a listening ear, and I'm working on my listening ear. But
there's people for that.
True. True.
My mom always told me when I was younger, she was like, when somebody comes to you about something, you need to ask them, do you want me to listen or do you want advice?
I learned
that was the best thing to do.
I learned that at 44 years old.
I learned that like 2 years ago.
I was today years old learning this. I know. Yes. And now I'm like, oh, they don't.
Not everybody wants you to tell them what to do.
I learned that in couples counseling. Straight up. Your mom's an angel. Can she come work like in her office? Tell her to counsel
us. Yes, Michelle, come work for us.
Michelle.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you what, it's shocking to me that people don't want me to tell them what to do all day. Yeah. However,
mind-blowing to me.
I was able to start a whole business where what we do, right, is we talk to clients and tell them what we think they should do. And it's been such a natural and great fit. I do talk to other CPAs at times and they'll be like, wait a minute. You get to talk to clients about, giving them advice and giving them recommendations on how to grow their business, but you don't have to prepare taxes and you don't have to do the financials. I'm like, I know, it's a good gig. It is a good gig.
Dream job.
In the history of your career, were there ever any moments where you got pushback or you felt afraid to share your opinion on the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I would say, it's hard when you're young, right? When you're young and you do know what you're doing, but people don't realize you know what you're doing. And I do have stories around situations where, it would be shocking to you guys how often, even now we're reviewing a tax return, and we'll say, oh my, look, there's a lot of mistakes here. There's a lot of things that are not okay. Mm-hmm. That happened a lot in my career when I was younger and, reviewing tax returns that other people had prepared on behalf of my clients. And I would look and say, oh, I found 14 mistakes in this tax return. And now I got to call this guy. And he's 60-year-old, white dude who doesn't want some girl, as everybody in finance typically, right? It's a man's world.
Yeah.
So who am I, this 25-year-old, calling and telling him, let me tell you about the 17 mistakes I found in your tax return. He is going to love this, right?
He can't wait.
He can't wait.
It's sitting on the edge of his
favorite conversation of the day.
Oh my goodness.
So in my, young, how can I get this across to him? How can I need him to like me because I need to be influential. I need to tell him how he needs to correct this and do it right. I don't want him to argue back with me. I want to tell him what to do. So how do I get through to him and tell him what to do? Knowing that he's been doing this for 40 years, I've been doing it for 10 minutes, even though I know I'm right. So, my approach at the time, as embarrassing as it is to admit now, is that I would call and say, maybe I don't know. Can you help? Can you help me understand what's taxes again? Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of acting like a naive girl who doesn't know so that he can then school me on. And then at the same time say, oh, I'm seeing that there's a few things I should change this. And I'll say, well, if you want to. So was it effective? Yes.
Yeah. Clearly.
Did he change it? Yes. Was he mad at me? No. Did I get the point across? Yes. Was then next year he was willing to be more collaborative? Yes. Right. This happened so many times. Now would I go back and say, just tell him how it is? Listen, I need you to fix this. I don't know. Because it was effective.
Yeah.
Right. It was effective. So I think there's a good balance between, you want to still appear smart and your stuff. Let's own that. We know our stuff. But at the same time, let's be gracious. I would never recommend that someone just go in there, guns blazing. You suck at your job. You made 17 mistakes. Let me show you where they all are. And I might find a number 18 while I'm looking. I think there's a softer approach that we as women can take when we're communicating with others.
I have to ask you something. Have you taken the Enneagram test? Are you a challenger?
So I've taken it, but I don't believe the answer. I
only ask because it sounds so familiar to Mary and I. We're both challengers and it took us a while to admit it because we've taken the test and whenever it comes back as challengers, we're like, no way we're challengers.
So that's crazy because it's number 8, right?
Yeah,
it's number 8.
We're
8s, baby.
So no one likes an 8.
Nobody likes an 8.
Just so you guys
know,
no one likes an 8.
Nobody.
Y'all are missing out.
I tell everybody when they're like, what are you Enneagram? I'm like, I think I'm an 8.
Wait, so you are an 8?
Yes, I'm an 8. So I tell people, I think I'm an A, but the wing, the person that you also are, mine's a 9. So it's I'm a 9, which is more harmony.
That's exactly what I am.
Thank God I'm harmony. Otherwise everyone would hate me. So an 8 is the one who's, this is how we're going to do it. I know exactly what I want. You're not going to, don't argue with me about it.
Yeah.
Right.
But you are convicted in your beliefs, but you also have the experience and the knowledge and the clarity. That's something that's so powerful with someone like you. And that's a reason why we look to you and your business for inspiration, because you guys are so clear and intentional with what you're doing. But I heard you say something where you said, I wanted to appear smart. And I think this is something that women in business struggle with a lot.
Yeah.
Is that even if we know, we are bringing a lot of value to the table, we have that experience, we have that knowledge, we don't doubt that we're smart, there's still this fear of coming across as aggressive. And it's this
especially when you're an 8, can I just say?
Especially when you're an 8.
Someone already told you in a test that you're aggressive.
And it made me think, and I think you could relate to this too in our audience, especially a lot of the women business owners, entrepreneurs. It brought me back to when I was 22 and my first advertising job. And I worked very closely with the owner. And we were at a Christmas dinner and I was sitting next to my boyfriend at the time. And he said to me, Mary's a great employee, but she's very aggressive. And my heart sunk into my stomach. And I was so embarrassed because I was like, women are supposed to be feminine and soft and loving and empathetic, which I think we are. But it has been a journey of learning how to be confident and have that presence and have that power without overcompensating. And I do think that both genders can be guilty of this. So when you tell your story about, trying to find your way in business and being someone who is so highly talented that you find holes in things that you look at and you can find the solution maybe faster than others, Have you found any approach that works best for you, like getting across your point and getting the goal accomplished without having whoever it is that you're communicating with or whoever it is that you're collaborating with, without having them completely shut down or turn away from you because of aggressiveness?
I do think that I have gotten good at this over time, right? And I do think it's something that you learn. And I think that something I learn, same thing with the advice of, do you want to be heard or, do you want advice, is to lead with questions. And I actually have that on a Post-it note on my computer that says, ask more questions.
Be curious.
That's my
be
favorite
curious.
thing to do.
I don't do it as much as I would like, but I do think that you can guide people to where you want them to go or where you believe they should be, right? By just simply asking questions.
That's so good.
We do it with our clients too. Clients will say, what do you think I should do? And although, I love telling people what to do. I don't need my vision to be your vision. And sometimes I have to say that.
Yeah,
like, if it were me, I would do this. But this is your business. This is not my business, right? So what do you want? What do you, what are you trying to accomplish here? Or what do you see for yourself? We actually had another way of asking recently. I have a client who's kind of struggling with his vision. He's not sure where he wants his business to be in 10 years. And, I'll say, well, do you want like a lot of locations? Do you want, just a couple of locations, but them to be like really big? What do you want here? He's like, I just don't know. And I said, maybe it would be best if you thought about what you don't want.
That's a good
So I
place to
said,
start.
do you want 50 locations? And he said, God, no, that sounds horrible. I said, I agree. And then I said, do you want one business that is making like okay money? And he said, no, that sounds horrible too. I said, okay, well then you've crossed out like a lot based on that.
Yeah.
So keep narrowing that definition and help identify what you do want. But I think, we have a knack of communicating with people in a way that allows them to, what do they want? What's their vision? What's their goal? And I don't want to make what I want what you want. I mean, I would love to, but it's not the right answer, right?
Yeah.
So maybe a more gentle approach and some guidance instead of, just me telling you how I feel.
I think that's the best style of leadership too, is leading with curiosity and helping lead people to where they need to be.
Yeah.
Versus your own objectives. But I mean, maybe sometimes your objectives are spot on most of the time, but
But they'll get there. They'll get there.
They'll get there.
They will.
I love that.
No one wants to be, it's true. No one wants to be told what to do, right? No one wants to. And we, as leaders, I will say with our team, we don't want to micromanage. We don't want to ever tell people, this is what you need to do today. A, B, C, then you're going to do D. We actually lead every morning with what we call a huddle. And the team goes through and tells us what their plan for the day is. What's their most important thing? And we can listen and redirect, right? Like if I know that I need something to be worked on and no one said it, I can say, well, can I ask, is this in anyone's agenda for the day? But I need everybody on the team to be really clear about their role and about what they should be doing for the day without me having to go in and tell everyone what they should be doing for the day, right?
Yeah. I love, you do a daily huddle? What time?
At 10 a.m. You want to come?
Yes.
It's fun.
We should start doing that.
Yeah, you guys.
Every company should do that.
It's because
Every
we're mostly
practice should do
remote.
that.
We're mostly remote, but practices should do that. So in the
Yes,
morning,
I
before you
agree.
get going with your day, before you're running like crazy, get the whole team 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes. What's our most important thing for the day? You could even, what patients are coming in, do they have treatment that you've talked to them about before that they haven't scheduled? Why is that? Like, can we get ahead of it? What else do they need to have done? There's a lot of things you can uncover in that morning huddle, but it just gets everyone on the same page.
To connect with today's guest, Jessica Nunn, follow her on social media at Maven Financial or visit their website at mavenfp.com.
Okay, Jessica, so I have to know. So y'all do fractional CFO for healthcare companies. So that can be dentists, that can be aesthetics, anything like that. And this is really great for companies specifically that either don't need a full-time CFO in their business or even just somebody who maybe can't afford to have somebody full-time. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what you offer for your services?
So like we talked about a little bit in the beginning, we don't do the accounting or the tax work, right? Recovering. But what we do is help these practices specifically with looking at their financials, understanding what's working, what's not working in the business. We tell people we use their financials like an x-ray. How can we diagnose the financial health of their business? How can we then understand what they need to do to be more profitable? Or, you guys know there's always something that comes up, right? I need to hire someone, or should I invest in this device? Or today someone emailed and they have 3 options. They want to move into a different location, they want to expand into a second location, or they want to expand their hours. How do they make that decision? So we map that out. We'll say, okay, we literally have prepared for a call, 3 different options, and we can say, this one looks to make you more money, but here's the risks. You have to, now you're running 2 locations. It's like having 2 children. How do you feel about that? Right.
Yeah.
The second one actually makes a pretty good amount of money too, maybe with less risk. But however, you don't have to choose one. There's a way to accomplish maybe both. So we're really taking questions like that and developing strategy. The other thing that we do that I feel is unique is, especially for our aesthetics practices, the data is really challenging. So if we were to ask a client before they work with us, hey, what's your revenue per hour for each injector and your estheticians? They would say, I just don't know. Like, there's a way to get it, I know, in my software, but I don't know how, and it sure would take a while. And it does take a while, I'll tell you, but we do it.
Wow.
So we're going to dive into each of their softwares and extract this data so that we can present it to them every month. So every month we'll say, injector 1, Mary, she produced this much per hour. She had this many patients. She produced this much on average per patient. Her capacity is this. She's getting a little bit busy. Maybe you need to hire another one. Meanwhile, your esthetician performed like this. We had set a goal for her of this. Is that in line with the goal? And that's where we really have the opportunity to talk. Because you might say, gosh, I really expected her to be busier at this point. Why isn't she busier? And we might say, okay, well, let's talk about that. Who's answering the phone? Are we converting the phone calls? What's the marketing plan? Why do you think she's not busy? Why don't you try A, B, and C, right? We'll come up with something together. Next month when we meet, is it better? Is it worse? What's going on now? So there's always something that comes up, but we really use the financials and those key performance indicators, all that data from the software, to diagnose the health and to make a plan going forward.
I love that y'all use KPIs for that. That's probably extremely helpful. It sounds really helpful just listening to you talk about it. And I'm sure it's not always a one size fits all for your companies that you work with. Is there a range or a size of business that you tend to try to work with?
Yeah, that's a great question.
You can't really prepare clearly for everything. There's always going to be things that come up.
Yeah. Well, and to be honest, like some of those larger companies, right? If they have, 50 million in revenue and 6 locations, they should have a CFO in house.
Yeah.
So we're really meant for those 1 to 3, maybe 4 location practices, private practices, several providers. We have ways to help folks that are really small. Like, we have clients that are, I'm the only provider, but I really want to grow. Okay, well, then you need a plan too, right? So how can we get you a plan? So, I would say between 1 and 5 to 7, maybe up to 10 million in revenue is what makes sense for us. And most people are surprised to hear that. They're like, man, I feel so small. The best part is when we do a sales call and they'll say, listen, I know we don't have that much revenue. And I know, we're pretty young in our business. And we can tell them, you have an amazing business. Stop it with that nonsense.
Yeah.
You have an amazing business. I want you to know that. And I want you to hear that. And we're actually perfect for each other. So we have a price point that is affordable for practices even like that.
I love that. And that's something what's so cool that just made me so excited about the work that you guys do is you don't have to be a 10, 20, $30 million practice to be able to afford this type of financial support. But as we've talked about so many times before, as a business owner myself, you can't make decisions unless you know the numbers behind them if you want to remain the green and you don't want to be in the red all the time. So for clients, practices, even maybe startup mode first couple of years, do you have any advice on what they should be thinking about before they start partnering with a company like yours, or as they're starting to build that relationship? Like, at what point do they need to pull someone like you in?
That is such a good question. So, I would say first, make sure your financials are in order. So, make sure you're using, we recommend QuickBooks Online, right? Have some sort of accounting software. We recommend people work with a bookkeeper. I know a lot of times your office manager might be doing your QuickBooks, or maybe you're even doing it, but we really think like, let the accountants be the accountants, right?
Yes.
Go do your job. Stop being an accountant. I don't want to be one. You don't either. Okay. So let's hire a bookkeeper to do the financials. If you ever know someone who needs one, we have a list of folks that we really like who are also affordable, right? Once you have your books in order, that's when it's really a good time for what's next, right? What are these telling me? Like, okay, I have my financials, like they look pretty, but what does this even mean? That's when we can come in and fill in the gaps and tell the rest of the story.
That's so good. And so let's say just to pivot the conversation a little bit. So you have this relationship with these clients and you've been doing this for a long time and you started your business in 2021. So just 1 year after COVID year, there's this kind of a little bit of a lingering PTSD around 2020, COVID, election year. 2024, as we all know, is an election year. And the economy has been a little shaky, a little uncertain. Someone who is in the financial world, you have so much knowledge and experience. What are your predictions for this upcoming year, and how can we set ourselves up for success being small businesses, the under $1 million mark in revenue, all the way up to the $5 million mark in revenue? What are some things that you would suggest we do so that we don't find ourselves in the places we were even in 2020, so unprepared?
Yeah. So, it's interesting. I feel like it changes every day, doesn't it? Like one day the economy is terrible, we don't know what's going to happen. Inflation is so high. We should be so scared. The next day we hear the market is at an all-time high. Like what even is happening right now?
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And so, I read a lot of predictions or a lot of things like, what did we predict last year? Remember, coming out of COVID, people thought we would really struggle coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
And actually everything bounced back much faster, right?
Yeah.
than it was predicted. And since then, everyone said it's going to be really hard to rein in this inflation. In fact, it's going to be almost impossible to rein in this inflation, but it's starting to happen and we're starting to kind of get back to normal. And people aren't broke for the most part, right? Businesses can afford to invest in marketing, can afford to invest in financial support. I think some people are skittish. That's why we need to review the numbers and understand truly where do you have the budget for things like this. But what we always tell people is, does it even matter? Like we can't control what's going to happen this year. We can't control what's going to happen next year. What's going to happen is going to happen. What can we control?
Yeah.
We can control our own financial security, right? We can make sure we're not spending more than what's in our envelope, right? We can make sure that our processes are in order. We're providing the best possible service to our patients. We're, taking care of our team so that they don't leave us or go work somewhere else. There are things that we can control. So let's focus on those things. Let's make sure that those things are as tight and as good as they can be so that we're more likely to weather any sort of storm that might come. I was working in this field in 2008. Remember the huge stock market crash, all the housing stuff, and those businesses. I can't think of one company that I worked with that the business did not come back. It was tough for maybe 6 months, maybe a year, maybe longer. It's been a while, but everyone has recovered. And those that thrive are the ones that had their house in order.
Wow.
So focus on what you can focus on, right? Control what you can control. We're giving a lot of therapeutic advice.
I know. Well, every time I meet with your team, Kristen and Haley, I feel like I am so sorry, but this is like a counseling session.
We're counselors on the side.
We are.
So one of the things that I love that y'all talk about, and Savannah now being in operations, she's also kind of like that ear that listens and we just collaborate. When things are high, they're great, but when they're not, they're scary. And one of the things that you guys always talk about though is if you are not meeting those revenue goals, or if you are not, profitable in the place that you want to be, you guys always talk about focusing on increasing revenue first and foremost over looking at all the pennies that you can cut. So
exactly.
Do you mind elaborating on that philosophy?
So, when folks start working with us at the beginning of our engagement, we'll say, the first thing that we're going to do is put you on a budget. We're going to put together a budget for you. And they hear budget, diet, no, you're going to tell me that I can't spend any money. I have to cut all these things. I can't buy anything ever again. This is the worst day ever.
Restriction.
Yes, that is what they hear, restriction. And instead, what we say is actually, let's shift it a bit. They're really surprised to hear that we spend a lot more time looking at revenue opportunities than we do cost cutting opportunities.
Love it.
Yeah. And it's, thank God, right? They're like, okay, you're telling me I can still buy my things. Good.
Yeah.
But what we really want to do is optimize your revenue so that the expenses that you have are more affordable so that you're able to be profitable. I don't want to say despite your expenses. What are you going to do otherwise, right? Like you can't cut half your team. You can't decide to not pay your rent. A lot of your expenses are intentional and you hired these people on purpose. Let's get them busy. Let's drive the revenue that we need to drive so that our space makes sense for us in terms of cost. Our team makes sense for us in terms of cost. Sure, if we feel like maybe your supplies are too high, or, maybe there's some costs that aren't giving you a return on your investment, or we're really like, we're going to mention it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But more often than not, our big wins come by getting really clear on our goals in terms of revenue and production.
Okay, I'm a practice. I'm not meeting my goals. Top 3 ways I can lift my revenue.
Number 1, you have to know where you are now.
Okay.
So know your data. Where's your revenue per hour per provider now? And not just where was it last month, but where has it been? What's the trend? So number 1, know your data, right? When you know your data, number 2, focus on revenue per hour, I would say. So what's the revenue per hour per provider? How do they compare? Is everyone busy? Like, what is improving the revenue per hour? What's causing it to be lower in some cases? Is it your service mix? What is it? That tells us a lot. And then I would say for aesthetic practices that capacity is really important. Again, are they busy? Are they full? Do we need to spend more on marketing? What do we need to do to get the patients in the door so that our providers are full and they can be generating the revenue per hour that we need? There's a lot that goes into it. What we prefer to do is when we look at everyone's situation is we'll say, okay, for you, these are your 3 things.
Yeah.
And these 3 things for you are very different than the 3 things for this guy over here.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is that when I say these are the 3 things that are going to move the needle for you, then I can follow it up with, and these are the 98 things you don't have to worry about because they're going great. Like you have all these things happening. You have hundreds of things to worry about all the time. If I can tell you these are going great, don't even put your energy there right now. Instead, focus on these 3 things. That saves a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of heartache, I feel, because we can get them really focused on how they're going to improve the business.
Yeah. Social Practice would love to offer your practice a free social media audit. Visit us on social media at Social Practice US. Click the link in our bio to claim your free audit today.
I feel like this is something I'm really excited to hear you answer, because we view ourselves as just consultants for our clients as well when it comes to marketing. We're not just going to be talking to them and guiding them through our services, but we want to get curious and we want to ask them questions about what other marketing expenses they're investing in. And I think right now, especially with people having some economic uncertainty and not knowing where to put their money, they get really nervous to invest in things that are a little bit less traditional, like social media. And so they aren't wanting to put as much money there. How much do you suggest that people need to be paying for marketing per year out of their revenue?
Typically it's going to range, right? If someone's a brand new practice, they need to spend more. If someone is so busy that they can't even take care of the patients that they have, they need to probably not spend as much or figure out a different way to take care of their patients, hire somebody else or whatever. But for most practices, we say 5% of revenue is a good target on the budget. And we want to understand where the money's going, but we also want to track the results of that.
Yes.
So we've helped do that too with some clients. And most people, when they come to us, are spending not even half of that.
Yeah.
And they're surprised when we say, guess what? You're spending more money.
Yeah.
But when we show them, let's pretend, right, that you spent twice as much money in marketing. And let's pretend then that you had this many more patients because of that.
Yeah.
And we run the numbers and we look at the math and we say, look at your profit now.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is amazing.
I love
Would you do it?
Yeah.
Yes, I would do it. Okay, we're doing it then.
I think that's so great, because I think sometimes it can come a little bit biased when it's coming from us, because we're like, you need to be investing this much, as it's coming from a marketing agency. Like we're telling them how much they need to be investing, but coming from you with somebody who looks at these numbers day after day and giving them that advice. And of course, ROI is incredibly important. That's something that we value and we want to be preaching to all of our clients. And if we can show that to them in comparison to how much they could be making if they were investing a little bit more, it's a game changer.
Yeah. Do it in a client acquisition way. I don't feel like we're constantly out there saying, you need to work with us. Here's all the reasons you need to work with us. Follow us on social media to work with us. Like, we didn't expect to get clients from our social media. Now, have we? Yes, we have. But more importantly, we want to differentiate ourselves. We, like I said, we think we're a pretty fun group, right? We love our culture. We love the way that we take care of clients. We love how relatable we are. We love how our clients' conversations with us they give them confidence. We don't, make them feel bad about their business. We make them feel excited about their business. So we wanted to showcase who we are into, the world. People don't know that unless they work with us. So how can we let the world know that we are normal, fun people that you would actually enjoy having a conversation with? I promise, even if it's about money. So that has been the role of social media for us. I will say another byproduct, other than, letting people know who we are, is that we recently had someone through our network come to us and say, hey, I really have been told that your culture is amazing. Are you hiring right now? And in fact, we had decided 5 minutes before that we were hiring for this position.
Wow.
So she said, I just hear that you guys are so great with your culture and I can see how fun you are on social media.
Wow.
So again, how great is it that we get to people get to have a glimpse into who we are and how we work through our social channels.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. And that's one thing we talked about in our last episode. There's so many benefits of social and we almost forget because we're just so used to being so knee deep in all of it. But it's a great way to attract and retain talent and to tell your story and to set yourself apart as a company. If you guys don't know, we partner together. So we have Maven as our fractional CFO and Maven has us as their social media partner. And we have so much fun with it. And the ultimate goal of social media is that we're just shining a light and telling the story of who you guys are and what this business is like. And you attract the right people into your channel. And also unattract the ones that aren't going to align with you.
Occasionally we will get a call and, they'll be either really, I don't nickel and dime people for our clients. We're very easy to work with, flat fee, monthly engagement, no contract. If you don't like it, we don't like it either. We tell people. So, but occasionally I'll get a sales call and they'll really want to nickel and dime me. Well, can you discount for this? Can you be less for this? And I'm like, you are not our people.
Yeah.
We want people who value consultative advice and who aren't going to constantly be thinking, how can I make this cheaper?
Well, there's truth behind you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And that's also where one of our lessons in the past few years of having a growing business is being clear on what your values are as a business and what kind of clients you want to bring in and what values they have so that you guys, because you're forming a partnership. It's not you're not just a vendor for these clients. You are their CFO partner.
Yeah.
And they need to trust you and they need to respect your experience, your process, the knowledge you're bringing, the time, energy, effort. So that's also a great way to kind of, pre-qualify clients, if you will, through social.
I feel like it's like if you're starting off on that foot, if you make that partnership happen, then you're just going to be proving yourself to them the entire time, which we want to make sure we're getting everything done in the way that we're showing our excellence. But if we're just having to constantly be proving ourselves, then the partnership isn't of value because the values aren't aligning.
I know our providers deal with that too. They don't want to discount their services to every single patient that comes through the door. And that's also a value out of social is we need to highlight then who you are, your expertise, your credentials, the outcomes you provide for patients. Otherwise, you are going to constantly get those shoppers that want the next Groupon, they want the next discount, whatever it is.
What I love the most about what we do, you guys know, is we really try to push out valuable content that's providing education too. And I will tell you, just 2 days ago, I got sucked into some sort of social media, a provider that I am almost willing to drive to Austin to see her because of her. I just loved the way that she takes care of her patients. And I got that completely from her social, right? And I could see who she is, how she works, the results that she provides. And I'm like, I want to come see you.
Yeah.
Sometime I'll find 3 hours to go drive.
Totally.
But that's all social. I can't get perspective into her office without seeing what she's willing to put out there.
Yeah. So good. So good. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for sharing your perspective, not only on your experience with social media, but also speaking to us and our audience about how to scale their business and their practice, especially despite the economic conditions. We're so grateful that you took the time to be here today.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it. It was a fun time.
Yay.
So much fun. We learned so much. Thank you.
Me too. I'm going to get my envelopes on the way home.
I have some in my car. I'll give them to you.
Okay.
Thank you. You can find us on social media at the Aesthetic Edit Podcast.
We're on all podcast platforms, so don't forget to subscribe, and we'd love to hear from you.
And follow Social Practice on social media. You can find us at Social Practice US.
If you'd like to become a guest on the podcast, visit our webpage at social-practicetx.com/the-aesthetic-edit.